Good morning and a very happy St. Patrick's Day to you, whether you're listening in Ireland or abroad. It's a big day for the Irish. Because of that, we are cooking up season 2 of Are We There Yet, the podcast, and we've already got some amazing guests lined up. But while we wait, just to whet your appetite, a little bonus episode for you today, because I sat down with historian and Dubliner Donal Fallon and had a fascinating conversation. This man knows everything there is to know about Dublin, including the history of Dublin pubs and beyond, our favourite drinking establishments. Really, really good stuff. I particularly enjoyed learning about the Irish women who were responsible for keeping the taps flowing and keeping the pints poured. So some good stuff. I hope you enjoy it. And as I said, we will be back with season 2. Some amazing guests already lined up. And I can't wait for you to hear them. So please enjoy on this St. Patrick's Day, myself and Donal Fallon talking pubs. Donal Fallon, it is so lovely to have you in the studio. Great to see you.
It's great to be here, and it's actually nice to do a bit of media for the book that isn't in a pub.
Yeah.
I have to say, with a cup of tea instead.
But I was going to say, I mean, that should be the perk of the job.
Yeah.
But like, it's like anything, too much of a good thing is too much.
Absolutely.
But anyway, you're very welcome to the studio. The book, The Dublin Pub, A Social and Cultural History, it is so beautiful. And I'm going to start, you're the storyteller, right? But I'm going to start with a story myself, because I suppose it shows for me how integral the pub is in Irish society and particularly in Dublin society. So the 8th of June, 2014, I was on Baggot Street. We were having dinner in Chez Max. It was my mother's birthday. I was single. My friend, who was also single, came in at the end of the meal and she said, listen, there is a big solicitors conference going on in the Shelburne Hotel. It'll be all men. She said, why don't we knock back the drink? We go in there and we'll kind of sit at the bar. And I said, I'm not going in to sit like one of those women that sit in the main bar in the Shelburne to do what we have to do. And she was like, come on, we'll do it. Anyway, we were walking in and we were walking down towards the Shelburne. And I heard music in the window of O'Donoghue's pub.
Yes.
And something stopped me in my tracks. And I said, do you know what? I need a bit of Dutch courage if I'm going to do this. So we went into O'Donoghue's and had a drink, stand in the bar. And I saw a couple of lads playing, put my eye on a good looking fella. He was playing the guitar and he was giving me the eye. I was giving him the eye. And anyway, this went on for about 20 minutes. Patrick, the barman in O'Donoghue's, came up to me and he said, Kathryn, that man wants to buy you a drink. What are you having? And I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, I'll have a gin and tonic. And anyway, that was the first. Eventually, Pádraig, my now husband,
Brilliant.
Stands up, comes over, has the chat. But I found out later on that night that it wasn't in fact my husband who bought me the drink. Patrick, the barman, had spotted what was going on between us and he had come up with the drink idea himself. And that is how I met my husband. We're now married, 2 kids, and so life is as it is. But for me, that just personifies, it was the music that drawed me in and it was the barman that picked up on what was happening. You know what I mean? In one of the most historic pubs in Dublin.
Who needs Tinder in a society like Ireland? I met my wife in Grogan's.
Did you?
And on the day we got married, we were allowed the very special dispensation of a song in Grogan's.
Oh,
which is almost unheard of. So our friend McDarry Yates got behind the bar, got out the guitar and he sang a song. So pubs are romantic places.
They are.
That's a good place to begin.
They are.
I can't think of a better day than O'Donoghue's and into the Horseshoe Bar in the Shelburne Hotel. That would be a nice day.
So we have a picture. We've in our hall outside the Jacks. We've got lovely black and white photographs of O'Donoghue's. And every year we'd go in there. And I haven't seen Patrick in a while now, so I don't know if he's still there. But we'd go in and we'd have a pint in O'Donoghue's, where it all began. Speaking of which, let me. I love the front cover of this book because when we think of pubs, it can be a lot of the men in the pub and pint men and bar men, and I love the fact that you've a woman on the front of your book.
Pint men, bar men, men behaving badly. Brendan Behan, Patrick Kavanagh, Flann O'Brien all come to mind. And one thing that's happened already a lot is people stop me and say, my dad would love that book, my granddad would love that book. And I'm very adamant that the pub is a broader thing than that. The pub is an important place in everyone's lives. A reoccurring theme through this book is women in the pub, and that's a story we'll get into. It's a very complex story. But I didn't want to put Brendan Behan on the front of the book. Because people expected that. I went with this great matriarchal figure who was Miss Cooney.
Okay, tell me about her.
The Brazen Head, and she very much ran it on her own terms. That's a pub that shifted enormously. I mean, today that's a tourist pub.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. You need those in the market.
Totally.
When we go abroad, we sometimes find ourselves in tourist places. And I think the product there is good. I think visitors to Dublin have a good time in the Brazen Head. But there was a time when it was very much a bohemian pub. It was the long-haired folkies and the banjos and all of that. And Miss Cooney ran it with a real matriarchal iron fist.
I love it.
No draft pints. She resisted that till the very end. Pint bottles only.
Right.
And you just have her there sitting at the edge of her bar. Doesn't she look like the ruler, like the general of the business, enjoying a cup of tea? So people of a certain vintage who remember that time, the ballad boom and all of that, they see the book and they go, oh my God, it's Miss Cooney.
Yeah.
And I think putting a woman on the front of a book about Dublin pubs was a statement of intent.
Yeah, I like
that
it.
This isn't going where you think it's going to go.
And from, I'm from Carlow, and that reminds me of so many women in rural pubs. My mother is from Kerry as well, so and there were a lot of, like, that woman with the cardigan and the long skirt.
Yeah.
I've seen her behind so many different bars,
And what is a bar man or a bar woman? I mean, they're lots of things. They're essentially running a creche for adults, aren't they?
Yes, correct.
They're counsellors. They're dealing with the issues of the people before them. They're tour guides. Someone can walk in and say, I've just arrived in town. What should I do? They're levemakers, matchmakers, as we've learned.
Yes, I can attest to that.
They are key figures. Sometimes they're politicians. They make the leap to councillor or TD or whatever it might be. So John B. Keane kind of embodies that idea. A publican can be everything to everyone. And she was, Miss Cooney, a really beloved example of a matriarchal publican.
Can we go back, right? Because, we know the Dublin pub, and I know it's a Dublin pub and it's not the All Ireland pub. And I'd say that's because you had to kind of...
Well, that's my wife.
Rein it in. Oh, really?
I said to her, I'm going to write a book about Irish pubs. She said, what kind of pubs? So we could go up to Padre O'Donnell's in Derry, might go all the way down to Tom Crean's place in Kerry. And she said, Donal, you don't drive. So I'm going to end up driving you around the 32 counties of Ireland so you can get drunk and write about how great these pubs are. I'm not doing it. I still needed her at the Strawberry Beds, out to the Wren's Nest and out the Hote. But there was no way. There was no way she was going to allow me to go on this journey across the island of Ireland visiting pubs. So I had to rein it in a little bit just to Dublin.
And when you look at the index at the back, actually, you see how many pubs that are in it. I mean, probably a good place to start in Dublin because there's a lot to work through. But let's talk about the pub, because, how it's depicted in so many different movies. I'm just even thinking most recently, like the House of Guinness, and and how the Irish pub or the Dublin pub is depicted around the world. And it can be so cliched. But tell us, how far back does the Irish pub go, or does the Dublin pub go?
That's a great question. So, I mean, before, the pub is a real 19th century phenomenon. The Victorians were into rules and regulations. That's how they were. Oscar Wilde said they knew the price of everything and the value of nothing, but they liked things to be well-ruled, strict reform. So the public house is really born in the 19th century, and there's a lot of rules around what a pub is, the alcohol they can serve, when they open, when they close. If you go back further than that, you have ale houses and taverns in the 17th and 18th centuries. There were madhouses. I mean, Swift said a tavern is a place where madness is sold by the glass. They could open when they wanted, they could close when they wanted. It was a violent city. There were dueling, like men were challenging each other to duels, literally shooting each other for matters of honour, pride and love and politics. Wow. Sometimes at the back of these taverns and ale houses. So
taverns and ale houses were there before the public house.
Yes, and coffee houses, which is a real irony. In the 18th century, you'd see a sign saying a coffee house, but it was full of booze as well. So these places where, like Lucas's Coffee House was a very famous one where dueling would break out on occasion. They were unregulated spaces.
Okay.
The alcohol was often unregulated as well. People were drinking all kinds of wild spirits up to crazy percentage volumes. And we didn't have a clean water supply in Dublin for a long time. We only cracked that in the 19th century, getting clean water from the Vartry water scheme into the city. So in a city where there was no clean water supply, what were people drinking? Beer.
Yeah.
They called it table beer or small beer. It was meant to be low volume beer that could be drank over the course of a day. But enough pints of anything, creates chaos.
Yeah.
And I find that city of the 17th, 18th centuries really mad. Wolfe Tone is one of the first people we meet in the book. His diaries are brilliant because he writes this fantastic diary, and every time he's drunk, he uses the word huzzah. And one entry, he says, home at 3:00, don't know how or when or by what means. Huzzah. God bless everybody. So we're kind of following a very drunken city, stumbling through the 17th and 18th century. And then the Victorians are saying, no way. We're not having this. We are regulating this. We are going to put shape on this. This is becoming a pillar of people's lives, and it better stand upright. That was the rules. So spirit grocers became a thing where you could walk into what was a pub, but also a grocer's.
Okay.
Good example of that, Walch's in Stoneybatter.
Stoneybatter, yeah.
The counter, if you follow the bar counter on Walch's, it just drops. And that's where little L ones were in doing the shopping. You know, they weren't in to stand at the bar, they were in to buy the groceries. Keogh's on South King Street, everyone loves that pub, don't they?
Yeah.
Keogh's has 2 doors, a door into the bar and a door into the snug, but that was the grocer's.
Okay.
So the pub was a place not just where you went to get drunk, it was where you went to buy tea and groceries and things like that.
And so do we know when the first one is? Where was the first one?
Oh, you're going to open a civil war now.
Oh, right, okay.
What is the oldest pub on the island of Ireland?
Yes.
I think,
or even in Dublin.
The honour goes to Sean's Bar in Athlone. I just think that's a fact.
Yeah.
The archaeologists agree. And it was trashed out.
What a great pub. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the parliament of the people in this country, where people go and resolve their issues, is called Liveline. And on an episode of Liveline, home of many a petty grievance,
correct,
they debated a big question, which was, what's the oldest pub in Ireland? And the Brazen Head in Dublin and Sean's Bar in Athlone, they trashed it out. I think the Brazen Head eventually conceded.
Okay.
But they haven't painted over the mural on the side of the pub that says Ireland's oldest pub. So to the visitor, they're still Ireland's oldest pub, but Sean's in Athlone wins it. The Brazen's a great example. If you walk into the Brazen Head courtyard, it says Brazen Head Hotel, because it was that. It was a place where people stopped and stayed. Pubs were also, there were coach houses, they were hotels, they had a whole variety of functions beyond just getting people drunk.
And some of them that's kind of explainable, if that's the right word, in the name. So there's some great names of pubs, and maybe talk us through some of them.
Names
I love
are
them.
great.
But,
names are great. I mean, not too far from
the
where
Bleeding
you are.
Horse.
Not too far from you are, near Inchicore's Rialto, where you have the Bird Flanagan.
Yes.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Willie Flanagan was a practical joker. He played all kinds of mad tricks in Dublin. On one occasion, he rode into the door of the Gresham Hotel on the back of a horse, and he demanded a drink. And they said, "We're not serving you." He goes, "It's not for me, it's for the horse." On another occasion, he showed up in public dressed as a bird, and thus he eternally became the Bird Flanagan. You know, he's still commemorated with a pub named in his honour. The Bleeding Horse is a great one,
name,
because that lends itself to all kinds of theories, including ghost stories. Someone told me once, that pub is haunted by a horse. Actually, nothing to do with that. There was a veterinary service there where horses were bled, as they often have to be.
Yeah.
The Turk's Head. There was a time when
what's the story behind that?
People were very largely illiterate in the 17th, 18th century city, so pubs needed to have a very visual sign. So even if people couldn't read or write, they knew what they were looking at. So the Globe is a name that goes back hundreds of years in Dublin pubs. There's always been a Globe. There's still a Globe. It's due to reopen soon on Georgia Street. Yeah. The Turk's Head is another example. You would have had things like the Elephant, the Bull and Castle, all these great names, variations of them. The Rose Tavern. They go back because there were signs that people would look at and say, "I know what that is."
Yeah. Can I give you my couple of favourite pubs in Dublin? O'Donoghue's would have to be in there, like I said.
And that's what happens. You see, pubs become places of personal memory. They're collective memory. So O'Donoghue's means Ronnie Drew. It means Luke Kelly. Seamus Ennis, it means the folk revival, but it can also mean something very personal. I think that's what's so special about pubs. And is it in the same
family for years, O'Donoghue's?
Yeah, Paddy and Maureen O'Donoghue ran it for a long time, and it wasn't a music pub. In fact, singing was banned in the pub.
Yes.
Apparently it was a pub that was very popular with civil servants because it was right beside government buildings.
Right.
And it was a different time.
Yes.
When they would go for a liquid lunch and they mightn't come back to the desk.
That was just always the thing, yeah.
Singing was banned. And in the 1960s, the Dubliners erupt in that pub and the singing never stops. Long hair was banned in the pub, which was mad.
In all pubs or just in O'Donoghue's?
In O'Donoghue's. And then along come the Dubliners, starve the barbers.
Hell, I never knew that.
And there's a lovely song about the pub, and it says, Paddy and Maureen, very, very sound, but they like to sleep on the moral high ground. If you had long hair, you were outward bound.
Oh.
And when a journalist said, Luke Kelly's hair looks pretty long to me, Paddy said, no, that's not long, that's fuzzy.
And actually, what was interesting that I found in the book as well, that I did not know, speaking about music, the trad session that we all know and love did not start in Dublin pubs.
No. We really owed that.
I was so shocked to hear that.
To our diaspora, who we love so much, the Irish in Britain, which goes all the way to the Gallagher brothers, who had their after party in O'Donoghue's and beyond.
Listen, me and my husband were good. Dua Lipa's been there now, Oasis were there. We were right on it before all that. Rihanna, I think, didn't she go there as well?
Yeah, I actually believe my 21st birthday was moved because of Rihanna.
Oh.
Yeah. she got the room. She got preference on the room. Fair enough. But we were talking about the Irish in Britain.
Yes.
when Luke Kelly goes over to Britain as a labourer in the 50s, he's into jazz music. He's no interest in Irish music. He talks about walking down a street in Newcastle and he hears these Geordie accents singing the L Triangle. Wow, it's amazing. And it was in pubs in Britain, in London, a pub called the Devonshire Arms in Kentish Town.
Yeah.
Not to be mistaken with the Devonshire in Soho, which is now the place to be. It's a very trendy pub in London.
Ryan Tubridy is never out of the place.
Tubridy's never out the door,
He's
actually.
never out of it.
I sent a copy of the book to Tubridy and I said, for the crack, I'll send it to the Devonshire. and he got it. He took a photograph with it. So I was very happy.
Brilliant.
But this pub in Kentish Town, migrants from Leitrim and Mayo, I think, are gathering there and they're playing songs. And that's the beginning of people looking at this saying, session works. One, it works as a way of bringing people together. Migrants in a foreign place, finding a common thing, like the GAA or the language movement or whatever. But also it works for publicans, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have a trad session on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. A quiet night becomes a busy night.
Brings in the crowd.
And that was really the folk revival as we know it.
So all of the west of Ireland, the south of Mayo and Clare, and I mean, it literally, the trad session came across from the diaspora.
Yeah, and certain counties like the Sligo style counties have a very unique style of playing.
Yeah.
So they would gather in different pubs in Manchester, Salford, Liverpool, London.
Yeah.
Put their own twist on it. I was walking through Camden Town not too long ago. The Oxford Arms, great pub in Camden, big Mayo crest painted on the side of the
wall.
pub. And the Irish have now kind of become a part of the fabric of British society. We're not so much the outsider anymore. I mean, the joke used to be when an Irish person shouted in London, "Give us back Ulster," they'd shout, "Well, give us back Kilburn."
Yeah.
But we've become part of the fabric of Britain in a very real way.
Sticking with music then for a sec. So O'Donoghue's obviously do good sessions. Where do you like to go for a good trad session? Where are the big ones that you like to go to?
I'm a great admirer of a pub called Piper's Corner on Marlborough Street. It's run by Sean Potts from a very famous traditional music family. It's not far from the Abbey Theatre. You have a great stretch of pubs there.
I can see it now, and I don't think I've ever been in it, actually.
Yeah, but they have a lovely... the awning of the building is Seamus Ennis, who was a great uilleann piper. And he was known as An Fear Ceol, the music man. And it has a lovely session in it every week, but every night of the week. Not every week, every night of the week. And
every night?
Really good Irish language gatherings in there as well, the pop-up Gaeltacht. So again, this thing that a pub is doing more for people than just getting them drunk. It's a place where people go if they want to hear the uilleann pipes, if they want to hear conversation in Irish. That's really special. But music is more than trad music.
Yes.
Like J.J. Smith's comes to mind. May it rest in peace. The great jazz pub of Dublin.
Is that gone now?
It's been reborn as the Thomas More Inn, but the upstairs is no longer a bar.
My dad, I got kicked out of J.J. Smith's one night because my dad is a big jazz fan, loves jazz. And he said, meet me in here one night. And myself and my friend arrived in. And of course, the music was going, and I had a few drinks, and all I wanted to do was get up and dance. And that was not the dumb thing.
No.
You listen to the music of the jazz.
Louis Stewart played there, who was the god of jazz guitarists in Dublin. Louis very fondly remembered, but that was his place.
Yeah, and it was, what a place. So atmospheric. Amazing. Unreal.
Amazing. And the true disciples of jazz music would gather there to hear Louis Stewart play. So music, another way music's arrived in pubs, I think about Unshaw. For example, the first pub I remember to put a pair of vinyl decks in and have someone DJing during the week. That's a really nice touch as well. That music becomes part of your surroundings when you're having a drink. Fidelity down on the Ben Burb Street, Queen Street intersection. Yeah. That's like a Japanese listening bar. I was just back from Osaka in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And they have bars where people are sitting around listening to a jazz record. And they'll clap at the end of it. And they'll all have a drink and chat about it.
Like a Christy Moore concert.
Yeah, it's like a Christy Moore. But they take the music that seriously. And there's attempts now in Dublin to have these bars with world-class sound systems where music takes centre stage and people listen to records.
Needing hospital care can be confusing. The first question out of everyone's mouth, where do I go? Well, the most important decision when choosing a hospital is choosing one that you can trust, one that has the latest innovations and world-class expertise. That is why so many choose Mater Private Network. Mater Private is Ireland's largest hospital network with hospitals and clinics in 10 locations around the country. They offer some of Ireland's leading specialists in areas like cardiology, oncology, spine, orthopedics and more. At Mater Private Network, you can be absolutely sure their medical experts put you and your family's needs at the centre of everything they do. Choose the medical care you can trust. Choose Mater Private Network. To find out more, log on to matterprivate.ie.
Well, then another one of my favourite pubs is, and this is coming from somebody, I used to love pubs and I used to love going out. And I think a lot of people of my age, women, and men, like in their 40s, we don't go out as much as we used to between life and work and kids and just getting fucking old. And maybe this is a reflection of that, because whenever we go into town, I love going into Neary's now. Myself and my hubby, and we love to sit up at the bar.
Very civilized place, Neary's.
It's very civilized. and again, it has that kind of hushed tone, you know, and the barmen are all dressed in the suits. And it's a good spot. Neary's is a good spot.
If you want a good civilized pint in Dublin, Neary's comes to mind. I love that the uniform of the staff just transports you back, doesn't it, to the 1930s or 40s. The Art Nouveau feeling. Neary's also has lots of lovely art on the walls by a guy called Harry Kernoff, who was a fantastic painter of Dublin in the 1930s and 40s. But he painted the world he knew. So he often paints the bar staff or people enjoying a drink.
Yes.
And if you go into Neary's and take the left, the little area, it's almost like a snug.
Yes,
Harry's work is in there. Davy Byrne's is stunning as well.
Davy Byrne's. Again, a pub that I know and I used to frequent quite a bit. But don't go in there anymore.
But its walls, these gorgeous murals from the 1930s. And I only learned when I was working on the book, they were painted by, you'll never forget a name like this, Cecil French Salkeld.
Cecil French Salkeld.
What a lovely name that is.
Brilliant.
He's Brendan Behan's father-in-law. And I think to the shock and horror of him and his wife, Brendan married his daughter. But he painted in this beautiful kind of Art Nouveau style. I think walking into Davy Byrne's feels like walking into Paris. If Davy Byrne's was in Paris, it would be an Instagram smash. You know, it would be a place
need to go now.
People want to see.
I need to go back in.
I just feel like I'm in the 1930s when I walk in.
What sort of crowd are in Davy Byrne's now? Like, what does it get? Is it a rugby crowd? Is it a tourist crowd?
Some of these pubs are now functioning at this halfway house of pubs and restaurants. And there's a reason for that. Like you said, we don't go out as much as we did as a society. We're drinking less all the time. So pubs are adjusting to that, I think. If you could bring Patrick Kavanagh into the Bailey today or into Davy Byrne's, they wouldn't recognise it. They knew them as drinking establishments. But I think that's fine. We can't freeze a city in time. And if businesses, you know, every pub finds its own way to dance, if offering food as a better offering becomes part of their thing, I think that's perfectly fine.
So are you okay with like the carvery dinner or the you know, in a pub? Like, no, I'm just thinking of the toasted sandwich in Grogan's. The packet of crisps. You know, I kind of think that's what pub food should be. But as you say, like the pub is different now. It's not just your old man's pub that we're thinking about.
Let's take Kavanagh's, or as everyone knows it, the Gravediggers.
Yes.
I mean, there's a pub that is in the ownership of one family for, I think, 5 generations, which is absolutely extraordinary. There are very few family businesses in this town that are 5 generations.
Yeah.
Kieran Kavanagh in there has become world famous for what he's doing, the Coddle. And if you see their guest book, and there's a picture of the guest book in the book, it was signed by Anthony Bourdain. And Anthony wrote, "The Coddle is perfect, your pig's feet are sublime," or something to that effect. So,
from the words of a god.
Who's going to question the Gravediggers on whether food belongs in a pub or not?
Yeah.
You know, that's an institution and always has been. So pubs are kind of finding out what works for them. The Grogan's has never changed. Like there was a time apparently it was a bowl of stew as well as a sandwich. I love the fact there's no television in Grogan's. No
any
radio.
pub that has no television for me is winning. I mean, I just don't think there's anything worse. Like with the big new modern pubs, fine, whatever else. If it's a sports bar, if that's what it's advertising, but I just don't get the television in the corner. It is the thief of joy.
Yeah. The 5:25 at Nottingham or whatever it might be.
Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, we'll watch any gang of horses running on anywhere.
But there are some people who love going to the pub and who love going to the local and sitting up and watching the TV in the corner or having, like, that's kind of part of the atmosphere. But for me, it just...
Tommy Smith, to whom I dedicated the book, the late proprietor of Grogan's, he argued no television and no radio. Because if you don't pipe music into a space, what will happen? People will not sit in silence.
Yeah.
A pub isn't a library, right? So you might have 10 tables of people, including people on their own. In that environment, they will talk.
Yeah.
And that's what's so special about Grogan's. It's become a conversationalist's pub. The Palace is a great example as well. They have
Palace
TVs.
Is a brilliant pub.
Willie knows when to use them, the televisions. They're not on all the time.
But for big match day,
there's an Ireland game on.
Tipperary are playing.
Exactly. There's rules and regulations on when you'll turn them on.
I loved your analogy as well, and I'd never heard this before. If somebody has a newspaper in front of them, don't go near them.
Yeah.
I did not know this. I'd be just shooting the breeze with anybody, but no. That's a very
much an
obvious sign. Leave me alone.
Rule and regulation in the back bar of the Palace that I'm here to read the paper. There's a lovely thing behind the bar in the Palace that you'd easily miss, and it's a bust of Con Houlihan, who was a regular there. And underneath, it's a quote. It says, "A bird is known by its song, a man by his conversation." which is fantastic.
Beautiful. Oh,
and
wow.
you could get lucky in the back bar of the Palace. That's where I saw Seamus Heaney on occasion. I wanted to chats with Seamus.
Yeah, you had a chat with him.
Is there another city in the world where someone who's won the Nobel Prize for literature is as approachable as that? That's just an amazing thing about living in this place.
And to be honest, you actually remind me, because my husband was a publican. He ran big pubs in Tullamore and over in the west of Ireland in Ballina. And he loves the pub, so he'll go down to the Black Lion now and in Inchicore, or he'll go to the Glen of Aherlow. And to me, I've kind of, unless I'm with friends or whatever, I do prefer going for a glass of wine now. And I've kind of become that cliche. But he still loves his pint, and he'll go on his own and he'll have great chats, and he loves going into town not knowing who he's going to meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he kind of reminds me of you. But do you think...
Well, my condolences to the wine drinkers of Inchicore, because you lost Wallace's Tavern there.
Yes, we did.
But the Glen is
brilliant.
a great pub. The Glen is one of my...
Glen of Aherlow is a good one.
One of my regular haunts.
So we had Ellie's christening there, and it was honestly like something from the Snapper, because we had lunch in Union 8, and we all trekked up the road. And my in-laws, all my family were in from the Isle of Man in the UK, and we didn't know where to go, and so we said we go down to the Glen of Aherlow, and they put us in the front bar in the Glen, like the little, it's not a snug, but it's a little front bar, it's not the big lounge. And there was about 25 of us in there. And at one stage, the barman was handing over 2 pints of Guinness while I was changing the baby's nappy still in the buggy. And it was all going on.
That would have been a tight fit at 25.
There was a tight fit, but it was a good sing-song, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But the art of conversation.
Yes.
I see my husband, he lives and breathes for it. Yeah. I mean, he just loves pub conversation. He loves the winding way at which it can go any direction, and he's very good at it. Do you feel that we are losing that with less people going to pubs?
Yeah.
And it's this, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but like, we're not drinking as much, pubs are closing, we're hearing about it all the time. The young ones are more into their health than their pints. They're in their phones, they don't want to go out, they're having anxiety about everything. Do you know what I mean?
Not everyone's a great conversationalist at a pub. I remember someone was described to me once, they were talking about an enemy of theirs, and they said he's a great man till the fourth pint. Which is a good review.
That sounds like me,
That's
actually.
a good review of some people. I wanted to capture the fact that the social nature of the pub isn't just chatting. So there's a chapter in there in karaoke, for example. It's a really important thing in parts of Dublin. If you walk Thomas Street onto Meath Street or Francis Street on a Saturday night, karaoke is everything.
Yeah.
People are singing the same songs that their mothers sang before them. God help anyone who gets up and sings one of those songs.
Yeah.
Newcomers are always welcome, but they better know what songs are taken, what songs are claimed.
And it's taken so seriously.
Yeah. Bingo. Like another one that's very dear to me because it's on my walk home from town is the Harold House. You go in there on a bingo night, it's like the World Cup, for the people that take it seriously. It's everything.
Yeah.
So pubs are not just chat, they're song. Karaoke is a very recent phenomenon, actually, in pubs. And when it arrived, people really didn't like it. They thought that it was an imported thing, that it wasn't going to last long. We used to have singing pubs, which were pubs with pianos in them, where someone would get up and play the hits of the day and people would sing along in unison. But the idea of one person getting up and singing before an audience, no way is that going to fly here, people thought. But it did. And it's part of life now, and it's very fashionable.
And you're just back from Japan, where
oh my
it's
God, where they love
just
it.
part of the culture.
Yeah. And if Irish people can't sing, they don't sing.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the Japanese.
It was the same. It was the same. The Cleary's was a pub across the road from us, and they, before that closed down, they always had their karaoke nights, and they would come from everywhere for them, and big prize money as well.
Yeah.
You'd see it on the posters, 500 quid or whatever.
The intergenerational nature of karaoke in Dublin is something I really like.
Okay.
That people go down with their mammy or with their granny. Isn't that just great to see?
So where's a good karaoke pub?
The Harold House.
Okay.
Right there on Harold's Cross Bridge. Absolutely extraordinary. Tom Kennedy's in the Liberties on Thomas Street. Just amazing. This guy in Tom Kennedy's, close your eyes and it's Elvis.
Way.
Absolutely extraordinary. But these rituals.
God, Donal, I'm loving
this.
I think I'm back out. I think I've found my mojo again.
And you talk about how we're not drinking as much. That's true. And publicans have to think about that. What does that mean for them going forward? When you walk into a good traditional music session like Piper's Corner or the Cobblestone, there's often as many cups of tea on the table as there are pints. People, they're there because they want to play in the session. They might be in work tomorrow, but they still want to be there. I went into the Wren's Nest, which is an amazing pub in the Strawberry Beds, early on in the research, 2:00 in the day, table of women there. And they told me that during the lockdown, they only got to know each other. They all lived somewhere in the area. It's quite rural in the Strawberry Beds. You feel like you're in the countryside. And they would meet in the car park of this pub and they'd share tea and scones and stories. and they were still doing that, but now they were doing it inside. Still tea and scones and stories.
Yeah.
So they might not have been drinking, but there's still a community that exists in that pub and around that pub. So,
and how do the publicans feel about that? Because I was, we were at a gig there in the Olympia recently, and what's the pub beside that? Is it the Oak, on Dame Street there?
Oh yeah, the Old Oak. Yeah,
the Old Oak.
Yeah.
And we went in there, gorgeous pub as well, and we were having drinks before or after the show, and there was about 7 or 8 women, and they were all sitting there knitting. And in the window, and I think there was a drink here or there, but not huge. But they were all just, that was them, and they were chatting away. And
I think there's nothing worse.
As long as you're spending, I don't think publicans will care what you're doing.
There's nothing worse for a publican than an empty pub.
Yeah.
So whatever it might be, if it's a glass of wine or a cup of tea in front of people, they're happy to see people on the premises.
Yeah,
I think, and that's what's going to bring other people into the pub who might have a drink is the fact there's people in it.
Yeah.
You want a pub that has a sense of community about it. So I think selling pints isn't the be all and end all of running a pub.
And it can't be anymore. Speaking of women, let's talk about the history of women in pubs.
Yeah.
And when we were allowed in, I told you my mother is from Kenmare, and up until very recently, there was a bar. I don't know if can I say the name of the bar, but anyway, I'm going to just fucking say it. It's the Rookty Bar on the street there. And 20 years ago, there was no women's toilet. I don't think there still is, but also you were frowned upon when you went in. And that was only very recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a great quote in the book from John B. Keane, the playwright who ran a pub, and he was asked about women in the pub, and he said, "I don't understand how any publican can refuse to serve a woman in this day and age." He says, "My best customers are women, and they're better behaved than the men." And I'm always happy when they're on the premises because they can diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
Some of the chapters about women are extraordinary tales. We have Elizabeth Taylor, who arrives in
Elizabeth
Dublin.
Taylor.
The Elizabeth Taylor. Richard was filming The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Richard Burton.
Yeah. And she's wandered. They were living in the Gresham Hotel with Elizabeth's pet monkey. It all sounds a bit chaotic. And she would wander around Dublin while he was filming. And on one occasion, she arrives at Cusack's on North Strand. She walks in. She says, "Can I have a drink?" And they said, "No, this is a gentleman only bar." And she said, "Well."
So sorry, what year are we talking now?
Oh God, The Spy Came In From the Cold. We'll have to check that. But this would have been one of the great kind of post-war films. So this would have been perhaps the 50s.
50s, okay.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Taylor asks, "Can I have a pint?" They say, "No, we've no women's toilet in the premises." That's fine with me. She has her few pints, but she's escorted into the male toilets to
go to the jacks.
Yeah. And Roddy Doyle, of all people, Booker Prize winner, Roddy Doyle said to me, "I hope that's in your book, because there used to be a little plaque down by the male toilets saying Elizabeth Taylor
This is where she went.
used these jacks," but it's gone, unfortunately. I think a former owner took it with him. Lee Miller. Lee Miller was a very famous fashion photographer. There's an exhibition of her work on at the minute in the Tate Gallery in London. She worked for Vogue magazine.
Yeah, played brilliantly by Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet
recently.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
Lee Miller is one of the defining photographers of her era. She arrives in Dublin in the 40s. She's sent here by Vogue magazine to photograph James Joyce's Dublin, and she goes into the Palace Bar at a time when the Palace is a male-only preserve, essentially. And she says, "To get the shots I wanted to get, I stood on the male-only bar."
On it.
It's just an amazing image, isn't it? This fashion photographer, this World War II correspondent in Dublin for Vogue, standing on the bar of the Palace, shooting all the regulars.
Oh,
just
unreal.
amazing.
Unreal.
I found, though, that the idea that women were banned from pubs.
Yeah, so give me the history.
Women didn't tend to be banned from a pub, per se, but from sections of the pub. So you would have had this division of bar and lounge.
So when the public house first opened back in the Victorian times or whatever, was that a women no-go zone?
It was very frowned upon.
Okay.
Very frowned upon. Early houses in the markets area tended to have women in them because women were a big part of the markets. So take the Smithfield Fruit and Veg Market. It's due to reopen in the not too distant future.
Thank God that's happened.
And let's hope we get it right.
Yeah.
Like the English market down in Cork. I'd love to see something like that.
And are they consulting with people like you and historians? Are they going to do it? Okay, good.
They are.
Good,
Funnily,
good,
you
good.
should ask because I can't say too much about it, but they are.
Well, I'm glad.
And the community, more importantly.
Yeah.
But women would have been big in the fruit and veg market and the neighbouring fish market. So their day would be over very early. You know, they would have had the stalls ready to go.
You're finished at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Of course. And there were pubs around there. Corbett's, which became what's now the Hacienda.
Oh, yes.
That was a very popular pub with female market workers, apparently, back in the day. So in the early 20th century, you would have walked into early houses around the fruit and veg markets and encountered working women. Moore Street had a load of early houses on it. Again, these were women who worked on the stalls. So other pubs, it was kind of frowned upon,
right.
definitely. Walsh's and Stony Batter famously, the barman in there wouldn't sit women at the bar until the 1980s. And he told Kevin Kearns, an American who came over to write a book about Dublin pubs, he told them women wouldn't like it there. It's a male-only preserve. That was the 80s. So there was a question over, can a woman be served a pint? It was considered unladylike for a woman to be served a pint. Women would be served half
As late
pints.
as the 1980s.
And you had there's a story in the book of a woman who sues her pub, which was in suburban Dublin, in I think the early 1990s, for the right to equality in the bar. What the women's movement began doing, which was very clever, was they would start objecting to the licenses of premises that were discriminating against them. And judges rightly came to the view that actually these were tax-paying people and they were entitled to the same treatment as any man on the premises.
I love the bell story of Nell McCafferty heading into Neary's.
Yes, and it's true. I thought that was an urban myth, and we found the press report for the book where Nell McCafferty leads the women's libbers, as they were known, into Neary's. They order a load of shorts and a single pint. And the barman says, sorry, I can't serve you the pint. Down the shots and say, well, you didn't fulfill the order. I walk off the premises. So one small blow for womankind, but an important one. But nowadays, I mean, that full equality in the bar is a very important thing.
So did the snugs then, the glorious snugs that we have in various pubs around Dublin and Ireland, were they specifically brought in for women?
Well, everyone has a favourite snug.
Yeah.
I think a good snug should lock from the inside.
Yes.
That's really, really important, that it gives you that privacy. Now, of course, women drank in snugs, but I think there were other people in the Victorian era who didn't want to be seen on the premises. So I'm thinking about politicians, I'm thinking about priests, I'm thinking about policemen.
Right.
But there are all kinds of people who might be on a premises who didn't want to be mingling in the main body of a pub. So it was that place that gave you a little bit of secrecy.
And do snugs exist in other parts? Like, do British pubs have snugs?
Not really, no.
So that's kind of just an Irish thing,
they're a
is
real
it?
phenomenon of the Irish pubs in Britain would have them.
Yes.
You might get them in those Irish outposts, as I call them. The Irish embassy in a city is a pub. But for the most part, no. But they're in fashion now.
Yeah, okay.
So you're seeing new pubs arriving, not just in Britain, but even here in Dublin. New pubs are going for that retro feeling. They're putting in snugs, stained glass, all the things that made a Victorian pub. The kind of fogged glass that gives that privacy. Yeah. All of that is in fashion now, the partitions, and it's coming into new pubs. I love the snug in the Palace, if you can get it.
Oh, it's
You're
so
very fortunate.
gorgeous.
Willie's created a little shrine there to the history of the Palace. So Lee Miller's picture of the bar is on the wall. Some of Con Houlihan's great match reports are on the wall there as well. It really is a who's who of former customers of the pub. And I think that's really special.
So do you think, Donal, the pub is the Irish pub and the Dublin pub, do you think it's safe?
I find it extraordinary that if you have enough money, you can go online and you can buy a pub. I don't mean a physical pub. I mean, you can buy all the bits and bobs and you can make a fake Irish pub. There are companies that's what they do. They sell you
ship them
the
to the
product
States
and ship them anywhere. And you can open an Irish pub in Abu Dhabi that looks and feels like the real deal. So obviously on one level, we feel the pub is a commercial product that can be made. On another level, though, can it? What is a pub if it's not people? And the stuff that's accumulated by a pub, I don't like this reproduction stuff. I think it should be the local GAA Heroes jersey. It should be the Con Houlihan match report. It should be the Lee Miller picture, whatever it might be. The bad art in Grogan's. You're the only art gallery in the world where the stuff gets better the more you drink. Pubs accumulate stuff on the walls that tell their story over time, and that can't be bought. You can't open a pub tomorrow full of stories because there's no stories in a brand new place. Yeah. So for me, the authenticity of a pub, what makes it is time. You just have to be there long enough to become a place of story and a place that means that much in people's lives. A place where people have met their husbands. A place where people have, wet the head of the baby, celebrated a wedding or mourned a funeral. Pubs in time become integral parts of their community, which can't be it from day one.
So on that then, what are the new pubs in Dublin that you love, that you think are kind of going places that have got it right? Because we all, when you think of it, we all go, and if you're like me, you go out at Christmas now. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that I only go out at Christmas, but like I'd be going for dinner. But if I'm going for pints, I'll go to Bruxelles, I'll go to O'Donoghue's, I'll go to Toner's. Yeah. But are there good kind of new pubs that you love that have got that feeling?
You see, if you think long enough about each of those places, there probably is a personal reason to go to each and every one of them.
Yeah, well, Bruxelles is I'm a rocker at heart. So Bruxelles back in the day for me. And Dave on the DJ box. And they used to let you dance on the counter back in the day. There was music downstairs. You could have Imelda May playing downstairs. It was just, what
amazing.
A pub. What
Amazing. Of the new kids on the block, what do I like? I love O'Regan's on Georgia Street for a couple of reasons. One, really beautiful hand-carved signage on that pub. Really nice. And pubs don't have to do that
Is this on the
anymore.
corner? Was this where the new Hoxton is? No?
It's one up.
Okay.
Fade Street.
Fade Street. Yeah. Gotcha.
We won't mention the television series, but
Yeah.
Fade Street. And it's gone all out with this beautiful hand-carved frontage. Inside the pub, the bar itself is recycled snooker tables, which is amazing. And we're all
Brilliant.
about that now, aren't we? As a
Sustainable.
society,
Yeah,
we're all
yeah,
about sustainability. And they've just really beautifully turned these old snooker tables into an immaculate bar. One of the nicest looking bars in Dublin. Only when you look down, you realise you're looking at snooker tables.
Wow.
And nearly everything in the place is upcycled, as they say. A lot of it from Dublin warehouses and from Dublin big shops that no longer exist, like Dockrell's. I love that. I love that upcycled feeling of giving purpose to old things. They've got jazz nights, they have traditional music sessions, and they've got DJ decks in the corner. I love a DJ playing in a pub.
Right, okay.
Because they have to think about what they're going to play. You know, they're
And I wouldn't have put you down as a DJ, man.
No, they're curating the room.
Yeah.
You know, so we all think about those great names back in Dublin's day, like Liam Dollard and Billy Scurry, but they were playing to nightclubs. People that are playing in bars have to match the feeling of the room, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I love when there's someone in a pub like Unshaw or Fidelity or O'Regan's, and they're trying to match. Their selections are changing with
depending
the
on what's
atmosphere in the
happening.
room, which is really special to watch that happening. So I think O'Regan's is a really special pub, and it's really quickly emerged as one of the most popular of the new pubs in Dublin.
Okay. Your top 3 pubs in Dublin. Are you allowed?
I have to say Grogan's, because that's where I met Sarah.
Yeah.
I love everything about Grogan's. It's very dear to me, and the reason the book
Has it become quite touristy?
Look, it's like the French House in Soho. It's always busy because it's good.
Yeah.
The best time to go to Grogan's is probably on a Tuesday when you might get a seat, but it's very busy.
Yeah.
It is very, very busy, and it can be, sometimes you walk in and it might only be open an hour and you can't get a seat. But I think there's something really special about Grogan's. I love the stained glass windows on either end of the bar commemorating former regulars. That's really special, isn't it?
I haven't noticed
Like,
that before.
Where do you get stained glass windows? In a church.
Yeah.
There's something that recall a sacred space.
Yes.
And there they are on both ends of the bar in Grogan's. I just think they're really, really special works of art. The Lord Edwards.
Love
Upstairs,
the Lord Edwards.
Tommy O'Neill, who runs the upstairs bar. He's just brilliant. And again, no radio, no television. It kind of feels like a mock Tudor house or something, doesn't it? It's really weird.
And it's a beautiful setting, like right looking across at Christchurch, and you've got the Bull and Castle next door to you.
If the bells are ringing and the windows are open and the whiff of burdocks is coming
the fish and chips
up the stairs, there's nowhere better to be than upstairs in the Lord Edward. That's a really special place. And then to go, I suppose, to land one outside of the city centre itself, which is a nice thing to do. I do love the Glen of Harlow.
It's a great pub.
Emmett Road.
Yeah.
I think that's a really special place, and it hasn't been the best year ever following St. Patrick's Athletic. It's been a pretty tough year, to be honest. But knowing you were going back to the Glen after.
Are you a St. Pat's fan?
I am, for my sins. Con Houlihan said that the people of Inchicore have followed St. Pat's through tin and tinner. It was a very thin year. But Simon, who has the Glen now, when he took it over, total reverence for what had been there before him, changed very little. Brought in Rascals, brought in a local brewery and put them on tap, hung up 1 or 2 new things on the wall, but respected the fact that he had taken over someone else's local. And I think good bar men and good bar women, bar owners, they always have a sense that they are the temporary custodians of what is a very important part of people's lives in the locality.
Yeah. Oh no, you've made, because I like living in the area, and we have the Glen, and there's the Royal Oak, and the Patriots Inn. I think it's a great pub as well, and the Black Lion. So
the Patriots Inn was once called the Queen Victoria.
Was it?
Which is a really funny name change. Like, of all the name changes in Dublin, to go from the most royalist name imaginable to the Patriots Inn is pretty good.
But again, what a setting. I love the round windows, and like right opposite Dublin, the jail. Just such a historic street. So I didn't know that about it.
The other thing I sometimes wonder is what pubs are gone that you would have loved to go to.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Bartley Dunn's, which was a very famous pub in its day. Bartley Dunn's wasn't a gay bar.
Bartley Dunn's was a gay bar, I was going to say, no?
It was not a gay bar. It was a gay-friendly bar.
Okay.
And in the time before decriminalisation, that's what they were. It always advertised itself in the papers as a continental pub, which was a way of saying between the lines, this is what we are. Micheál McLeamore and Hilton Edwards, who were both actors, they ran the Gate Theatre together. They were the first recognised gay couple in Irish public life. At Micheál's funeral, Hilton was kind of acknowledged as his mourning partner by the president, which was a big deal. But they would have really normalised a gay lifestyle in Dublin, and that was their place. That was where they went.
And again, like that's a whole other conversation in terms of how
Completely.
the pubs and like the likes of JJ Smith's was a safe space for women.
Yes, the women's only
Upstairs.
discos. Which was a nice way of advertising something in the papers.
By the time I went with my friend to have a dance, I wasn't treated with the same respect, let me tell you.
The Viking, Brogan's on Dame Street, that was the Viking. That was the first bar, even though it was pre-decriminalisation, which said explicitly, this is a gay bar, which was an extraordinarily brave thing to do. It opened the pub up to all kinds of legal challenges. The Parliament Inn, which was where the Turk's Head is now, that was a very important gay space as well. So there are these secret stories that can exist around places that we know under one name.
You know the way the cafes in Paris, the importance of the cultural significance of those places is really, truly accepted. Should the same be given to the Dublin pub?
Yeah, I mean, we have the cafes too. Like Bewley's is an extraordinary place. You can rattle off a list of names. William Butler Yeats, Mary Lavin, Patrick Kavanagh, what they all have in common is they all went to Bewley's Coffee House.
Yeah.
So we did drink coffee as well.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the Dublin pub and the Irish pub more broadly recognised by UNESCO as being something of of heritage importance, of value, because I think it is. I think it is what the literary cafe is to Paris. A friend told me recently, if you read a Sally Rooney novel, the characters aren't drinking in pubs anymore. They are, just not as much as they would have in a novel 20 years ago. The pub is still part of our lives. Whether it's still the great Irish third space, whether it's the space after work and home anymore, that's up for debate. But it still is one of those spaces in our lives. I'd love to see UNESCO recognise them in terms of what makes them unique. Their architectural dimension, their cultural dimension, all of that I think should be considered as a product in a sense. Not in the sense of a product that you buy, but something that matters in our lives.
It has been so lovely chatting to you today, Donal. Thank you so much. And good luck with the book. It is so good. And I know one man who was getting this for Christmas.
And a few women.
And a few women as well. Listen, lovely chatting to you today.
you.
Thanks a mil for coming in.
Thank you.
Needing hospital care can be confusing. The first question out of everyone's mouth, where do I go? Well, the most important decision when choosing a hospital is choosing one that you can trust, one that has the latest innovations and world-class expertise. That is why so many choose Mater Private Network. Mater Private is Ireland's largest hospital network with hospitals and clinics in 10 locations around the country. They offer some of Ireland's leading specialists in areas like cardiology, oncology, spine, orthopedics and more. At Mater Private Network, you can be absolutely sure their medical experts put you and your family's needs at the centre of everything they do. Choose the medical care you can trust. Choose Mater Private Network. To find out more, log on to matterprivate.ie.
You've been listening to Are We There Yet? Hosted by me, Kathryn Thomas. Visual design and video edit by Stephen King O'Farrell and Connor Daly. Music courtesy of Audio Network. Series producer Paul McGregor and executive producer Sasha Hamrogue. New episodes of Are We There Yet? Are released every Tuesday morning wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also watch this episode along on YouTube. Are We There Yet? with Kathryn Thomas is an Onic original.